consider legislation to improve the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA's, weather forecasting abilities. And I appreciate your willingness, Mr. Chairman, to work together to plan this hearing, and I'm very pleased that we ended up with such a distinguished panel of witnesses. The views of NOAA, as represented by Dr. Sullivan, as well as those of the other 3 witnesses from the non-governmental portion of the weather enterprise, will greatly enrich our understanding of how to improve weather forecasting. And I want to thank you, Chairman Stewart, for the bipartisan spirit you've shown in inviting collaboration on legislation. The draft bill we took testimony on in the first hearing has been replaced and expanded upon in the bill introduced by Subcommittee Vice Chair Mr. Bridenstine. There are many elements of that bill that are promising, and I'm particularly enthusiastic about the new section on tornado forecast research. I want to applaud the gentleman from Oklahoma for including that provision. We all agree that weather forecasting can and must be improved. As we learn more about weather forecasting in the United States, how it is done, and the partnership that's evolved among NOAA, academic researchers, and private businesses, it becomes evident that the core of the bill should be refocused away from its emphasis on research at OAR, or the Office of Oceans and Atmospheric Research, and more on the actual forecasters' needs at the National Weather Service. Putting all of our legislative emphasis on the OAR seems inconsistent with our stated intention of improving forecasting and protecting lives. OAR is a research arm in NOAA that manages oceans, Great Lakes, climate, weather, and computer research. It makes more sense, Mr. Chairman, to authorize the National Weather Service directly and put the forecasting operation in the lead on guiding research into innovations that have real utility. If our goal is to enhance forecasting, empowering the forecasters would seem to be the obvious way to proceed, and this is, in fact, the way the Army, Navy, and Air Force all do their research to operations efforts. Additionally, the bill as drafted may create unnecessary conflict between the researchers at OAR and the forecasters and researchers at the National Weather Service, as well as between the weather portion of OAR and the oceans and climate portfolios at OAR. We need progress in all of these areas to improve forecasting. As Dr. Sullivan concisely explains in her testimony, in the scientific world, weather is classified at shorter timescales, which technically extends to 2 weeks. Any forecast timescales beyond 2 weeks are classified as climate. So emphasizing weather research over climate research is likely to be counterproductive. As Dr. Droegemeier states in his testimony, all of us recognize the importance of balance between weather and climate investments in our nation's research and operations portfolio. Yet the traditional line dividing weather and climate is increasingly blurred, as climate models are now run at resolutions approaching those of weather models. Consequently, we would do well to consider weather and climate not as 2 distinct elements at the extreme ends of a spectrum, but rather as inseparable parts of the Earth system. And I look forward to Mr. Droegemeier's testimony further on that. Mr. Chairman, I am confident that working together we can craft a bill that is on target with the needs of the weather community, fiscally responsible, and protective of public safety. I am very optimistic that this subcommittee can draft a bill that is constructive and truly bipartisan. If we closely study the testimony we have received, it will give us a good guide for how to move forward, and I hope we can do that together. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.